Welcome to the Nurse Shark Academy Show, a Baxter Professional Services production. Welcome to the Nurse Shark Academy Show, where we're experts in nursing and experts in business. I'm Tina Baxter, your host. The Nurse Shark Academy Show highlights nurse business owners and others in the healthcare field who promote entrepreneurship. Today's episode is how one nurse's military career fulfilled a dream to enter forensic medicine. And today's guest, Teresa Devitt Lynch.
I started out, now this is going to age me, but I started out wanting to be Quincy. When I was in school, you start dissecting in like 8th grade. Everybody that hated dissecting wanted to be my partner because I would do it all. They didn't have to do anything. So, but we were food stamp family. We were, scrounging through the couch in the summertime looking for a quarter to go to the pool. Our very first microwave, the whole family, there was 6 of us, and we were all huddled around the microwave watching a piece of bread heat up because that was the only thing that we had. So I knew Quincy was kind of out of the picture because it was either there was no way in heck, I guess. Sorry, I'm a retired sailor. There's no way I was going to be able to afford to become Quincy.
Break free and come feel the sun with the Nurse Shark Academy. Nurses, are you ready to break free from the grind and build something of your own? It's time to take your skills beyond the bedside and step into entrepreneurship. Join our free webinar, Break Free, the Nurse's Path to Entrepreneurship, where you'll learn how to shift your mindset, explore nurse-owned business ideas, and get the exact steps to launch your own business. This is your time to take control of your career and create a future you love. Seats are limited, so grab yours now. Join us at the nursesharkacademy.biz. Break free and come feel the sun with the Nurse Shark Academy. And welcome to the Nurse Shark Academy Show. I'm Tina Baxter, your host. The Nurse Shark Academy Show highlights nurse business owners and others in the healthcare field who promote entrepreneurship. We interview nurse leaders and encourage them to tell their story. My mission is for you to own your seat at the table of nurse entrepreneurship, gaining the confidence, skills, and freedom to live your life on your own terms. You will dream big and expand your consciousness as an entrepreneur. Join us and support these wonderful nurse entrepreneurs and leaders. Today's guest is Teresa Devitt Lynch of Intrepid Forensic Healthcare Consulting in Fargo, North Dakota. Welcome to the show, Teresa.
Thank you. I'm good. It's great to be here.
Well, we always like to start off with the question of how you became a nurse. And so I know that will be a very interesting story.
Yes. Very roundabout way to becoming a nurse. I started out, now this is going to age me, but I started out wanting to be Quincy. When I was in school, you start dissecting in like 8th grade. Everybody that hated dissecting wanted to be my partner because I would do it all. They didn't have to do anything. So, but we were food stamp family. We were, scrounging through the couch in the summertime looking for a quarter to go to the pool. Our very first microwave, the whole family, there was 6 of us, and we were all huddled around the microwave watching a piece of bread heat up because that was the only thing that we had. So I knew Quincy was kind of out of the picture because it was either there was no way in heck, I guess. Sorry, I'm a retired sailor. There's no way I was going to be able to afford to become Quincy. So, and I had this aunt that I just emulated, and she joined the Air Force. And so, she was about 10 or I think maybe 8 or 10 years older than me. She is. And she joined the Air Force. I said, well, I guess my fate is sealed in joining the Air Force or the military. And then I had another aunt who owned a bar up here in Fargo. And she just happened to know the recruiters. Well, my family is filled with very bold women. And she found out that I was talking to the recruiters. And so she kind of threatened them to not do what recruiters are famous for doing. And so then he found out, the recruiter kind of took an interest in me, and he found out that I wanted to go to school and I wanted to be a physician, and he started exploring my options for me. And one day I get this phone call, and this lady just started asking me these questions about leadership and what I wanted to do. And then about 3 weeks, 4 weeks later, I got another phone call that said, "Congratulations, you got into the Boost program for a nursing scholarship." I said, "Fantastic. What is it?" And it was Broaden Opportunity for Officer Selection and Training. It is no longer Boost, which again ages me. But it was a pre-scholarship program for a ROTC scholarship program for specifically for nursing. So this was my way into nursing, was through a very supportive family, and an aunt not afraid to threaten people. My desire to be Quincy, and of being a food stamp family. But I always cared for people, so I knew I was going to get into nursing somehow. And I had that aunt that went into the military, and so I knew my fate was sealed that way. So here I am, 30 some years later, still in nursing, not in a traditional nursing role by any means, but still in nursing.
So, which branch did you say you went to the Navy?
I joined the Navy, yes, in 1992.
Well, first of all, thank you for your service twice.
My pleasure.
And I say that because you know what? I had that happen to me once during COVID. This never happened to me. And I forget where I was, at a grocery store or something like that. And somebody said, "Hey, what do you do?" or something. And we were talking. And I said, "Oh, I'm a nurse." And they're like, "Thank you for your service." And I'm like, "I'm not in the military, but I don't know." That was just the weirdest. I was like, "Well, thank you." And that's happened to me a couple times. So I think COVID has made people a little bit more aware of what nurses go through.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, absolutely.
yeah, that's why I say thank you twice. So, what was it like being in the military, in the Navy, and studying nursing? Because there might be some nurses out there listening, or potential nurses that want to get into it and maybe are like you, don't have the resources to get started. This may be a good way for them to get into the profession.
Well, I went in very naive. First of all, you learn the difference between an enlisted and an officer. I had no clue what I was getting into, to be honest with you, because like I said, the recruiter kind of did all of this for me, and I didn't quite understand the structure. So when you go through, once you get a scholarship, you go through, ROTC. And if it's still the same way, which military is stuck on tradition. So I'd venture to guess not a whole lot has changed. But every Tuesday we had drill. So Tuesday morning, we would go and we would have to wear a uniform. And then we would drill. We would go do different, marching things or have different military classes early in the morning. And then we would do physical exercise. And then we would just carry on our day, but we had to wear a uniform all day on campus. And then, I think it was maybe our first year of clinicals. We would get out of it for clinicals. We would obviously be exempt for clinicals. Other than that, we still had to maintain going to nursing school, plus maintain all of the ROTC requirements too. So it would be, it was kind of stressful. And again, I didn't have a lot of financial support. So I had the scholarship, which paid for the schooling, but then I still had room and board. So I was a resident assistant on top of that. And then I also cleaned houses too. So, and I cleaned some of the instructors' houses. So I wasn't too far away from campus. So I was pretty busy doing that, just trying to live, basically, just trying to feed myself. So I was very busy. I had, ROTC, I had the cleaning the houses, and I had the RA duties, which were big of themselves too, because college students are a handful. But working in addition to school was not foreign to me, because even in high school I had at least three different jobs on top of I was in Taekwondo. I got my black belt the day before I left for boot camp because I still went through boot camp. On top of being a cheerleader, on top of being in band. I mean, so I, was used to working 3 or 4 jobs on top of the schooling that I was doing. So that kind of hustle and bustle wasn't foreign to me. But then, once you get out, you're not only are you a nurse, but you are an officer in the military. So there are restrictions. Like obviously, if the ship is going down and the captain is incapable, I'm not driving the ship. Somebody else is driving the ship. But I'm still an officer and have the respect that goes with that. But so being a limited officer, there's some limitations, but we still get the respect of an officer. So, but it was good. I really enjoyed my time in the military. You learn a respect for the corpsmen, which would be the equivalent of LPNs, but they do way more actually than what an LPN does. And they're the ones that are actually on the front lines with the Marines. Nurses don't go on front lines with the Marines. That's Navy corpsmen that do not have as much training, but yet can do more than a nurse. Actually, it's kind of a little bit of a role reversal. They don't have as much formal training, but they have a lot more practical training. So they're the ones that are on the front lines.
They're kind
So
of like
you learn,
EMTs, maybe.
huh?
Like EMTs, maybe.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes. EMTs on steroids. Yeah,
yeah.
very much
Mm-hmm.
so. So
Paramedics. Yeah.
they're fantastic. Fantastic. Yep, exactly, exactly. So, but I mean, they can do, in a pinch, they can put trachs in, they can do minor surgeries if they need to. I mean, they do what they need to keep those soldiers alive. So it's a very different environment, and then. But it shapes you because you learn the camaraderie of the military. You learn the warrior ethos, the teamwork, the bureaucratic thinking, the structured thinking. And then you get out into the real world and you're like, especially I did 20 years, and there's people that do a lot more than 20 years. I have a friend of mine who has been in nearly 30 years now. So I don't know what she's going to do when she retires. She'll be like shell shocked or something. But so I got out, and about 5 years after I retired, I moved home and I did a webinar on, sexual assault in the military and how the warrior ethos impacts how we military personnel respond to sexual assault, how a victim responds to sexual assault. And my friend listened to it. She's also a nurse. We grew up together. And she said, "Oh my God, listening to you talk about the warrior ethos in that webinar just makes me understand you so much better, the way that you think and the way that you process." She's like, "You strategize everything. Everything to you is a strategy, and you plan everything out, and you're 3 steps ahead of everybody else." So it's just kind of ingrained in my thinking, I guess. It's just what I do. But honestly, that's what nurses do too, though. We think ahead on things because you don't know what's going to go wrong, but you do know it's going to go wrong at the worst time.
Exactly. You're gonna have a Microsoft Teams meeting, and then your Microsoft Authenticator doesn't work.
Yes,
What do we do?
exactly.
Shift gears.
Or your patient's going to stop breathing and change a shift. Or
We're, you know what? As nurses, we're used to that. So many times things like that happen to us. We get,
Mhm.
you get the phone call. You got 10 admissions coming in. You got multiple casualties coming in. You just got to know how to get into it and go. And you don't have time to sit down at that
Yeah.
moment and say, okay, now you do this and you do that. That has to be planned ahead of time. And that's what I would teach my staff. I was like, when I was a supervisor, I said, okay, this is what we're going to do. We've got 8 admissions coming in. We're going to plan. We know they're coming. You're going to do the orientation with the client. You're going to also take the patient back and do their strip search because I work in psychiatry. You're going
Okay.
to search the bag. You're going to get their meds together. I'm going to do their admission history. We just had it go because you had to go. And I imagine it's kind of like that in running some military operations. Everybody has to know their place.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, at the beginning of the shift, you would get a certain job, for a code, you would have a certain job. And I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we would just delegate at the beginning of a shift for different emergency scenarios. Yeah.
Yeah. I
So,
mean, you can't plan when the air conditioning unit goes out in the middle of the summer and it's 100 degrees. You can't plan for that,
right.
but you have to do something. So we called in fans. I mean, you have to make it work because tempers were getting really, really short. And so, like, let's get the industrial fans in,
Yeah.
turn the lights down low. And then I went out and bought everybody popsicles. I said, have a popsicle. Let's get the temperatures
Well,
down.
my first duty station was 29 Palms, California. So it's the middle of the desert. And middle of the night, because I usually work night shift. I'm not a morning person. It's middle of the night. I don't know what time of the year it was, when it was, but it was like an earthquake. It was like a 7.5. To me, it felt like a 10 because I'd never been through an earthquake. Water line breaks, so the water is gushing into the emergency room. So now we had it's a small hospital, and we had a mother and baby with croup. So she was laying on the bed. Thank goodness she was holding her baby in the bed. But we had to take all of our patients downstairs into the parking lot, and the ER was getting flooded. So we had to make sure that our patients were stable and to help the ER triage in the parking lot and set up the ER in the parking lot and help them once our patients were stable in the parking lot. and then well, here's a good one. So my second duty station was in Okinawa, Japan. 9/11 hits. However, not only was I working night shift, I was working mother baby, which was always full. I'm on night shift, mother baby. It's a typhoon. So
Oh,
we
no.
have all the expecting mothers coming in. So we've got them that we're kind of helping and watching. We've got mothers that have just delivered. We've got mothers that we're still taking care of because they can't go home. So we've got those mothers and babies. It's a typhoon. 9/11 hits
Mm.
during a typhoon over there. So now we're on lockdown and full security. Nobody knows what to do. So yeah, I mean, there's some things you don't know what to do, and you just kind of kick into like a survival mode, but you just do what has to be done, and you stay calm through it, and you just kind of think of your ABCs. Always stay protected. Just what do we need to do right at this moment to keep ourselves protected, but our patients always come first. So
Right.
we just kept doing our job. And the charge nurse, he was so funny. For the people that lived on base, he's like run home and get your gas mask just in case something happens. So here I am running. Luckily I only lived like a block from the hospital, so here I am running through a typhoon to get my gas mask in Okinawa, Japan on 9/11.
That was now 9/11 was a crazy time. I can't imagine
Yes.
being somewhere else on a military base or, somewhere else in another country dealing with this. But I can tell you from a person who was here, um, I remember when it happened, I was going to a computer class, I was sitting in the car, and I heard on there, oh, this plane, crashed into the World Trade Center. And I'm thinking, how did that plane not see that big old building? That was my first thought. Oh, it never occurred to me that it was on purpose. So then I get upstairs and we're starting our computer training, and then they're like, someone rushes in and brings in the TV. A second plane has hit the second World Trade Center, and I thought, oh wait, this was deliberate. And then I thought, oh crap, that means we're going to get called, right? And I knew I was going to get activated, so I said, okay, let me go put this. So I beeper goes off. They make me go back to the psychiatry unit, to make sure all the patients are fine. Patients are fine. The staff is falling apart. But anyway, that's what was happening. The patients were like, hey, can we get a snack? And all the staff is like, oh my gosh, we're under attack. And I'm like, try to get them to calm down so they don't get the patients upset. And then I get the call from the Red Cross. I was a Red Cross volunteer at the time. And that's when I knew I was going to get activated. And I remember getting to New York because originally I was going to go to the Pentagon, but they sent me to New York instead. And I'm there at a bank of telephones with a telephone number. That's all you have because of security. And then this other lady who happened to be from Guam, I found out later, was standing next to me, coming from the Red Cross at midnight in LaGuardia. We go through the airport and all these um, um, military folks. They had the National Guard in their full riot uniform with machine guns standing there. And I'm thinking, wait, what did I just get into? So you call this number, and I feel like a spy. They're like, okay, this is where you need to go, and you'll report to headquarters tomorrow, and you'll get a packet of information. And I'm like, holy crap. Yeah, that's how it was. So I can imagine just a small bit of what you went through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think we were, to be honest, I think we were somewhat isolated and protected because there was a typhoon. But we're on a little island and there are ships, there's Navy ships.
Mm-hmm.
So we didn't know how vulnerable we were to anything. We didn't, and I was sitting there as it was happening. I remember this vividly. I was sitting, there was me and another guy, another military nurse. We were sitting in the nursery, rocking two infants, talking about how he went to high school with a famous guy that was on at the time. One of the big shows was Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Oh yeah,
Drew Carey. Yeah, he was talking about how he went to high school. We were rocking babies, talking about how he went to high school with one of the guys that was on that show. And then all of a sudden they broke in with the towers getting, and then all mayhem broke loose, and we just were like, what the heck? We've got a typhoon and now we've got this. Yeah, it was crazy.
Like I said, it was a very interesting, tense time to be in New York during that time and at Ground Zero. So that was interesting. I think I would have been happier rocking babies. I tell some people I work in psychiatry, and I was out there for first aid, and I just think, people won't believe us as nurses, some of the things we've seen.
You
can't unsee. The time I had a patient stripped naked and run around. I'll never forget it. Ran around in the seclusion area around the table with a latex glove on his head that looks like the comb from a rooster, running around stark naked. And our little 70-year-old nurse is running behind him with a syringe. His laugh. I'm like, nobody would believe me that this is my night, okay? I will never forget that. And I'm just like, I'm charged nurse. And I'm just watching our little 70-year-old LPN run around the table trying to chase him with a syringe. And I'm thinking, again, what did I sign up for? But that's interesting.
Oh, yes.
Gotta be
that
ready.
Is one of the best things about working at night. All the fun stuff happened.
That's true. That is very true.
Oh, my goodness.
Especially when you work in the old part of the hospital, above in the tower above the morgue. You don't know what's going to happen at
night. I can about imagine.
Yep. Okay, so then you came back, you got out of the military, and you said you retired. What was it like moving from being in the military in a very, I would say, structured environment, because you kind of knew you had your orders, to coming into something that maybe is not quite so structured, and sometimes the bureaucracy in the hospitals, you just kind of wonder how that person got to be in charge, because they don't understand healthcare, nursing, any of that. Yeah.
Yes. Well, and I mean, not only, so you have that, so you have the hospital, kind of the hospital politics wrapped in military politics when you work in military medicine. So, it's kind of doubly politicized.
Yes.
But I did have a significant benefit because, so towards probably about 3/4 of the way through my career, so not only did I want to be Quincy, but I wanted to be a forensic pathologist. And along the way, I was very lucky throughout my career, because not only did the military pay for my bachelor's degree, they also paid for my master's degree. And then they also allowed me to get trained to be a forensic nurse, which was, the crux of what Quincy did. For those of you who don't know who Quincy is, before I start crying that you don't know who Quincy is, Quincy was a forensic pathologist.
Yes.
He was the original Bones.
Yes.
He's the original Temperance Brennan. There we go. Only he was a forensic pathologist, not an anthropologist. So, yes. So he was, and that's what I wanted to do, was forensic pathology. But in 2010, there was an opportunity. I was stationed at Portsmouth Naval Hospital. There was an opportunity for me to take training in sexual assault forensic examinations. And so, of course, I jumped on it. And luckily, at that time, I had finished my master's degree a few years earlier, and that was in education and training. So I had a Monday through Friday job, and I was able to take the time to take the training. And then we have collateral duties in the military, which are extra duties that you do on your own time. You don't get paid back for them. You don't get, extra time off or anything for them. They're just extra duties you do because that's what you do. So it was a collateral duty that I volunteered for. And, they say you build it, they will come. And at the time, around 2011 was when I really started doing them. And at that time, it was shortly after I was trained, the military was starting to amp up their sexual assault forensic examination programs throughout the whole military. And there was one other seasoned forensic nurse who has since become my mentor and really good friend. She was developing and implementing the program there at Portsmouth Naval Hospital. So basically, once I was trained and had 0 exams under my belt, but I went through the program, the 1-week program, well, I was ready to go. And her and we started that program together. My hands-on training was 3 exams in 1 day. It was a victim and 2 suspects, all from the same case.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So we built it and they came. And so for 3 months, we did what was called port and starboard watch. She did the first maybe 2 nights with me, because I got 3 exams done all in one shot. So 2 more exams with me, and then I was on my own. So then for the next 3 months, we did port and starboard. So she was on call for 1 week, and then I was on call for the next week, until we could get a few more people trained up. And then I became the lead trainer there. So from there, I went to Sigonella, Italy. That's in Sicily, the little island off the boot of Italy. And I was the program manager for the forensic healthcare, for the sexual assault examination program there. And prior to going to Sicily, I had obtained the certification for sexual assault examinations for adults and adolescents. And when I got to Italy, I was the only certified forensic nurse in all of Europe as far as the military was concerned at that time. I don't know if anybody else got certified prior to my leaving. My dogs broke in. So then I started training a lot of the military over there because I was certified. And then I also started consulting. And I got hooked on the courtroom very quickly. I love the courtroom. And so I was there for about 3 years. I got a lot of experience consulting because I was called for, I would venture to guess, almost every case in Europe, because the phone rang. I was traveling more than I was really in Sigonella doing cases, or either doing cases or training. And I trained all of the services while I was there. and I did cases for all the services while I was there as well. And then from there, my last duty station was Fort Sam Houston, Medicine or Navy. Yeah, Navy Medicine Education and Training down in Fort Sam Houston in San Antonio, Texas. And there I helped to finalize the tri-service sexual assault forensic examination training, helped to finalize the curriculum for that, and then to help train some of the first few courses in there. And then I was done. And then I also, I started consulting on civilian cases prior to my retirement. And then very shortly after, about a year after I retired, I worked in a civilian hospital for about a year doing exams. So when I retired, I had a couple advantages. I had my retirement that I could live off of. And then I've also got the VA to fall back on as well. And then also, doing consulting before I retired helped a lot too with networking and building up clients. Also, I knew that I didn't want to work for anybody else when I retired. Just done with that. So, and I'm not really. I knew I was going to take a pay cut, and I knew, and I'm really not one. I mean, I can live with what I've got. I'm not one who needs a whole lot. I can live on what I have, and I'm good there. So, I don't need to make a whole lot of money. I'm not really in for that. So I'm good with whatever. So, but the retirement was really the benefit that I had, was that I had the benefit of the retirement money to be able to take my time to build up contacts, network, build up a client base, and build up a skill base in consulting on cases other than just sexual assault. So I do think that was a huge cushion for me. And knowing that I didn't want to work for anybody else. I don't want to leave my house. I like not leaving my house.
Well, considering you moved around a lot, I can understand.
I do. Yes, I do travel a lot. I still travel a lot for cases and stuff. But, so I think the biggest thing was just, I do kind of still struggle with a lack of structure in places. I do still deal with state bureaucracy when it comes to payment, because some of the, public defenders that I work with, the state pays my wages. And so I still have, and I'm just going to be brutally honest, I still have some of the frustrations of red tape when it comes to those processes. And there are some times where I'm like, I need to see this in writing as to why you won't pay for this, or as to why I need to show you this bill because it's not in the manual that you gave me. I'm very much a stickler like that. And so I do still kind of deal with some of that bureaucracy. But for the most part, it's very nice being able to work for myself and to have the cushion of my retirement to allow me to do this. But it was, and still is sometimes kind of a shock dealing with civilians versus military persons. I won't lie. It's so lax. Like the biggest thing is the whole man bun thing. I cannot get over the man bun. It drives me. Can't do it. That is the worst. It's a good thing I don't carry a scissor with me, especially lawyers with man buns. I just want to cut them off. Just want to get them right off.
You know what? It's kind of like me having worked in a Catholic hospital for a long time and then going to a public hospital, like the state funded public hospital.
I bet.
And I'm like seeing fist fights break out among staff. I'm like, what is going on here? I'm thinking the sisters would have you in the corner, And I'm just like, I am in another world. So I kind of understand. that culture shock when you come from a stricter environment to something that's a little bit more loose and lax
Yeah.
and anything goes. I mean, it was just interesting to watch it. I mean, doctors would just walk by like nothing was happening. I'm like, don't you just see these two people cussing and all right.
Oh my goodness. That
And
is
their staff. That's what was killing me. Your staff, you know.
oh my goodness. Jeez.
I'm
Crazy.
like, yeah. A lot of the nurses that trained us had, I don't know if some of them must have been ex-military or something because there was a clear chain of command. You just knew what the chain of command was, and you knew not to leapfrog over that. You'd have to follow up the chain of command, and it was just so instilled in us that now I see things happen, and I'm just like, what's going on? What's happening here? You know,
Right.
and it's so different for when I trained as a nurse, and I imagine when you trained as a nurse, because now it's sort of like anything goes. And we just had a story about these nurses who only been nurses for like a couple years get fired because they thought it was funny to take pictures of their patients naked, prod them, antagonize them, take pictures and share it in a group chat.
Oh my gosh.
And so the text, this is what I found out, the text then who were in the group chat were like, this is wrong. So they went to administration and turned them in. And of course, they get fired. Well, I found out from on another content creator that they're now possibly facing criminal charges. The judge wants to strip them of their license forever, put them in jail. Yeah.
Well, if they're naked, that could be exploitation, that could be pornography distribution. I mean,
The
there's
oldest patient was
variety.
100 years old. So there's elder abuse right there. And that
Yeah.
but these younger nurses, I don't think understand the consequences of some of their behaviors and can't think through some of that where it was more instilled in us, I think, you know, you just don't do certain things, you just don't.
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness.
So
Crazy.
when you're starting up with your business, how did you decide how to go out and find your clients? I know you mentioned you were consulting on the side, but how did you think about that whole process of being an entrepreneur? What was that like making that transition?
It was a lot of Google searching, is what it was. Luckily, I do a lot of consulting with Wendy Votrebeck from Integrity Legal. She's out of the up in the Northwest. I'm not going to say the state because I say the state wrong, because of where I'm from. She's up in Oregon, and I don't
Okay.
say that the same way everybody else does. I always get made fun of. And I do a lot of cases up there. And I hope every time I go up there, I'm like, I really hope I don't have to say the state's name. Anyway, but she was the one that found me on LinkedIn, actually. And she was the one I started subcontracting with before I got out of the military. And so, and I actually, that our relationship is still going. So I've been subcontracting for her for over 10 years now. And so I had her to help kind of expand my skills beyond the sexual assault. I learned a lot through working with her, and then seriously, just a bunch of Google searches. I knew what an LNC was, legal nurse consultant was. I didn't really know where I fit in as a forensic nurse doing criminal cases, because LNCs, in my mind, and traditionally focus on medical malpractice cases, personal injury cases, medical device cases, the non-criminal cases.
Hmm.
And that's where I got stuck, was finding where and how I fit into it, because all of the resources that I found were based on med mal cases and civil cases. And that's where I have had to carve out my own niche and really teach myself. But a lot of the networking, I just flipped it. So, instead of going to conferences, legal conferences for medical malpractice attorneys or civil attorneys, I look for criminal attorneys, and I look for the associations that defense attorneys or prosecutors are associated with, and what conferences do they have, and can I exhibit there? So I just kind of flip everything that I find for med mal, see what I can find that I can, associate with criminal cases and criminality, and put it towards that. So it's been kind of an effort. And then I found Pat Iyer. Pat Iyer, even though she, is primarily focused, traditionally she's focused on medical malpractice cases. She has done a couple of criminal cases, and I've worked with her, and she's become a very good friend of mine and a mentor for me as well. And we've done some trainings in criminal cases, and and now we're working on developing some books that focus on criminal cases, and how nurses can expand their practice into criminal cases. But she's helped me too, also, to kind of create my niche more, and to carve myself more into the criminal cases. And so through all of this, through what I have had to do in terms of flipping everything that I read about med mal and kind of adjusting it and morphing it into criminal casework, and trying to adjust it and see how that'll work. Sorry, that's my dog. See how that'll work that way. Yes, I didn't shut the door hard enough. They came in. So then I started, obviously if I'm not the only one doing criminal case consulting. So then from there, I've just started trying to, show others what I have done, and to start teaching other people, and to start, mentoring other people in criminal case consulting. So.
Well, first of all, Pat Iyer is awesome. We've had her on their show, so I'm going to put the link in the show notes for those of you that want to go back and watch that episode. Yes. Or listen to the episode with Pat Iyer. And I've worked with her as well. And I can't wait for your book to come out, because I am also interested in doing more criminal cases. That's something that I wanted to do, particularly in the area of elder abuse. So that's kind of where I'm really looking at. And so I'm always interested in finding out more information about those types of things. And so I think that's a good way for me to segue into what you have as your offer, which you're giving to our listeners. If you mention this show and you get a hold of Teresa, she will give you a free webinar. So she'll give you a link to the free webinar so you can reach her at her website. And what is your website again?
www.intrepidfhc.com.
Okay, so reach out to her on her website, or you can find her on her LinkedIn page as well. That information will be in our show notes. And then, so lastly, I wanted to ask you, if you had a piece of advice for a budding entrepreneur, what would it be?
If I had a piece of advice for a budding entrepreneur, if you don't find what you're looking for, create it. Because that's what I've had to do. I've had to mold what was there into what I've needed.
Yep, there you go. Create it. We are very innovative as nurses. Why not?
Yes, we are.
Why not?
Absolutely.
Well, I want to thank you for your time. And do you have any last words for us before we wrap up?
No, I just want to thank you for having me. This has been very enjoyable.
It is my pleasure. We could talk for hours, but I know people will not listen for hours. So we're right almost at that 45-minute mark. So we do need to wrap up, but I do want to thank you again for coming and just sharing with us. And we might have to work together on a project or something, because the idea of doing more as a legal nurse consultant in the criminal space has always been intriguing to me. And I'm quite sure there's more people that want to learn from you. So I do appreciate your time with us today.
Absolutely. I love collaborating with people. I am an educator at heart. I love developing educational projects. I love doing things like this. I love getting information out there. So if you or anybody else wants to collaborate on something, just let me know.
All right, that sounds wonderful. So, thank you everyone for listening to the Nurse Shark Academy show. Don't forget to, if you're watching us on YouTube, to hit that notification bell and subscribe so that you can get notified when all of our episodes come live. Also, if you're listening to us from Podbean or anywhere else you get your podcasts, please don't forget to give us a like and leave us a comment. And we would greatly appreciate to hear from you. If you become a patron of our show, we will have special content available to you, and we'll actually do some live shows with you. And you can ask questions from the show host, myself, and any of the guests that we have there at that time. So head on over to Podbean to become a patron of the show. And lastly, if you're interested in being a guest on the show, just contact me. And we'll be having some information coming out shortly about how to be a good podcast guest, because that's people have been asking me about that. And so that's a new webinar that I'll be posting next month. So thank you for tuning in, and have a great rest of your day. Nurses, are you ready for more? My mission is for you to own your seat at the table of nurse entrepreneurship, gaining confidence, skills, and the freedom to live your life on your own terms. Assisting you in achieving your goals through tailored advice, continuous learning, and a collaborative approach is at the heart of everything I do. Stop being eaten alive. Come feel the sun. Be a nurse shark. Thank you for listening to the Nurse Shark Academy show wherever you get your podcasts, or watching us on YouTube. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and don't forget to hit the notification bell so that you'll know when all of our episodes come out. If you want further information, you can contact us on the NurseSharkAcademy.biz.